Look, I've got a ton of respect for Dave Ramsey. The guy has helped millions get out of debt, they sleep better at night, and they take control of their financial chaos. He's a legend in personal finance, there's no doubt about it, but just because someone helped a lot of people doesn't mean that they're always right. And today I want to dig into one piece of advice that I think he gave, and respectfully, it might cost a lot of money to people. So let's see what he said and let's comment on it.
Brought to you by the Every Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
Well, I'm new to the show, and I'm sure you get this question a lot, but I've never heard the answer. I'm trying to figure out why I should pay off a 2% mortgage with money that's making 5% or 15% or whatever. I mean, I can pay it off, but man, I 12 years left on a 2% loan. I can't.
What's your balance?
Find the reasoning. 92.
So this guy, apparently he's schooling because he's got a 2% mortgage. As he said, he has money available to pay it off. So he's got the 92,000 left to pay them off. And he's asking Dave, well, listen, I've got this money. Why should I follow your advice and pay off the mortgage rather than actually investing that money? Wouldn't it be wiser to actually invest that money? So let's see what Dave says.
2,000.
Okay. All right. So I understand your question, and as a math nerd, I used to make all of my decisions.
Good that he's a math nerd. That's actually good in finance.
Through the math lens as well. The more I've developed at teaching this stuff and learning about it over 30 years and working with very, very wealthy people, a couple things that come to mind, and I completely grasp your concept. It seems ludicrous in the way you're looking at it to do that. But let's first break down and say, what are you really making? Okay, so at 92,000, I'll round it up for your benefit to 100, so the math is real easy.
Sure.
And so if you're paying out 2%, and let's just say you're making 7%, you're netting 5.
Well, let's think this for a moment. He says 7%. 7% if we're talking discounting the inflation. He would be right. If not, it would be roughly 10% of what you get investing that money in, for instance, the S&P 500, the 500 best companies of the world. But yeah, let's say 7%.
I've agreed.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's $5,000, right?
Yes.
Okay. What's your household income?
It's about 140.
Okay. All right. And
well, it's actually more than that because I collect a pension as well.
How old are you?
I am 63.
Okay, so am I. So can we agree that $5,000 a year, $400 a month, is not going to make substantial difference in your wealth?
See, guys, here's the big mistake. In this precise moment, I can tell you that this is the biggest mistake one can do. $400 a month and $5,000 a year are a lot of money. It's actually, I could recommend you guys to actually set aside at least $400, $500 each month to actually generate the welfare that I'm gonna teach you now how to do. So let's break this thing down. Let's break what happens down. So this guy is proposing to actually cancel the debt by paying those $92,000, right? And Dave is saying to do that. Well, what I would recommend is do not pay that, because look what happens. If we do, and if we take into account the compound interest, look, the initial investment is $92,000 because that's the money that he had saved actually to pay that debt off. Monthly contribution, say we don't pay anything each month. We've got the 92,000. We need to decide whether cancel the debt or actually put them into the S&P 500. Okay, we decide to go for the S&P 500. Length of time in years, he said it, right? He's got 12 years left. 12 years left. And let's say the estimated interest rate, we're going to do it without discounting the inflation because that 2% also has inflation. So 10% minus 2%, 10% that the S&P gives roughly in the last 10 years each year, minus the 2% that he owes to the bank. So let's make it 8%. Let's put interest rate variance range to 0, and let's calculate how much that would be in 12 years. See, in 12 years, when we analyze that compound interest, obviously what Dave is saying is very true. $5,000 per se themselves, they're nothing. They're absolutely nothing. But they become something when we put them in a financial product that's actually giving us a 10% compounded over 12 years, because the investment or the range that we're considering is 12 years. So that is actually what I'm saying. That's why I believe in this precise case, he's not giving the best financial advice he could give. Okay, so let's continue seeing what he comments on the rest of the video.
I mean, we can agree that, yeah.
It's $400. A lot of families spend that on pizza.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean,
it doesn't really matter what people spend those $400 on. What people should consider is that those $400 that you're spending now on pizza, in 12 years, they're going to be a lot more.
Not a lot of money we're talking about. So more than anything, we're talking about a concept than an actual fact. And the reason I know that is that we ended up a few years ago studying millionaires because I became very interested in what makes people wealthy. And we did the largest study of millionaires ever done. We studied 10,167 of them. And we found, by the way, that 89% of them were like you. They're first-generation rich. Because I've got a feeling you're a millionaire, are you?
No, not yet.
I got a feeling you're pretty close, though. How much equity you got in that house?
I got, where I'm at right now, I probably got about 150.
Now, what do you got in your nest egg?
I got about, I don't know, 400. So I'm not
you're
there
about halfway then, 650. Okay.
Yeah.
You're sitting on pretty good coin, though. You're not a broke guy, okay?
No.
So you've done well. Congratulations. So what we found as we studied these millionaires was we asked them questions of what caused them to build their wealth. Where did their wealth come from? And because we want to know, okay, if 89% of them are first generation, it's important to know that 9 out of 10 millionaires in North America today became millionaires by doing stuff. So what did you do? The number of them that said, I kept a mortgage and invested it because I made the difference was almost zero. It was weird.
Wait a second. He makes a very good point here. He's saying that rich people that are rich nowadays, they don't do that. They don't cancel their mortgages to then invest that money. Okay. He is making a point, and he is absolutely right, but it all depends on the moment and the time that they were rich, and I'm going to show you why. Check this out, okay? This is the average mortgage rates that we paid for the last nearly 30 years, okay? No, even more than 30 years. It's from 75 to 25, nearly 50 years, okay? Check this out. When this guy is schooling, probably we're talking about a mortgage that was done roughly here, okay? 2020 or 2013, maybe 2017, if he negotiated good the interest rates, we're talking about the 2%. It was done around this time. If the rich population that Dave is talking about did their mortgages in the 80s, look the average tax rate that they had to pay. 17, 18, 19%. Obviously, if you're paying this amount of money, if you're having these interest rates, then it makes absolute sense to cancel out your mortgage unless you could find a financial product that could give you at least this 70%, which is very difficult. I was saying one of the most profitable financial products that we have is the S&P 500. For the last 10 years, it's given us 10% return. So we're talking about find a product that's this volatile and that could give you at least 20% return is very difficult. So then, if you did your mortgage around this time, even this time, we're talking 11%, 10%, 7%, it makes absolute sense to cancel out your mortgage, but it doesn't when it's 2%, okay? So Dave's advice is very useful if you did your mortgage, say, between the 75 and even the 2000s, it makes sense, but not from now, not modern finances. That's what I'm saying. That's why people should take into account this, okay? Let's continue seeing what he says.
was
I
weird.
get that because, I mean, traditionally we haven't had 2% mortgages.
Well, but even if you had a 6% mortgage, if you had it in a mutual fund and you're making 12, you ought to be making 5 or 6% on it. You ought to still be making that $5,000 spread. But the point is that $5,000 is $430 or $416 a month, which is not spit. It's not enough to.
Again, it's a lot of money compounded.
cause you to become a millionaire. So it's weird. What we did discover in further analysis was, with the actual data of real wealthy people, not discussing concept, but discussing the people that really did it, was the freedom that they felt by having zero debt allowed them to negotiate with their employer different. It allowed their relationships to be at a different level because there's zero stress. And you would purport to say there's zero stress here because I'm not stressed about this, but you have stress that you wouldn't have.
I won't criticize Dave for this, but freedom and stress are subjective feelings. They're not something they're not feelings that should guide your decisions or your financial decisions, okay? Feeling free or feeling relieved when you cancel out a debt can make you feel very well, can increase your welfare, but that's not the reason why you should make a financial decision.
If you were debt free, we have to all say that. If you had zero debt, your stress level goes down. Oh, and by the way, that actually has a physical component to it too. The number of people with hypertension in America is at the highest level it's ever been. High blood pressure is at the highest level it's ever been. Heart attacks at the highest level they've ever been. Oh, by the way, debt levels are at the highest level they've ever been. There is a correlation and a cause-effect series here in the data. And
correlation might be, cause effect for some people might be as well, but I dig for that.
So as we get into all of that, what we bottom line is you can keep doing what you're doing. We wouldn't call you stupid, but the data says that people don't really do that are building wealth. They really pay off their mortgage, and they really take their own mortgage payment and invest it in their 401k so that they have more money. That's what the actual data tells us, and that's good news.
Again, sorry to insist, but data from when? Yeah, as I've showed you in the graph, depending on when, it makes a lot of sense to cancel out your debt, your mortgage, but if not, it doesn't.
But you know, and we talked about this in the investment seminar a little bit, that the difference in the thing we're leaving out of this discussion is risk.
The beta.
Yeah, you're not talking about risk. You do carry risk when you carry a mortgage, because we've done research. 100% of the foreclosures occur on a home with a mortgage.
Mm.
With native teams, global payments and employment are no longer a challenge.
Now we've got
hire legally and compliantly.
And there's a lot more to this. You know, there's the mathematical side, like you mentioned. Most people don't actually look at their amortization schedule on their mortgage, because you might see, oh, I'm actually paying $600 a month toward interest right now because of how this thing's weighted right now. You're not making that, and unless you have the full $92,000 in a 5% account, which is almost nobody. Doesn't sound like he had all that money sitting there necessarily.
He did say at the very beginning that he had that money, and that's why he's schooling.
Then it's not even apples to apples. And another piece is, people forget on the Ramsey plan, you're investing 15% while paying off the house. So it's not.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get extra money from somewhere else and you're actually investing your money. It doesn't really mean anything. Like, you could, aside from those $92,000 that he's got to pay off his debt, he could have $1 million hanging around, but this wouldn't make it a good or a bad decision. It doesn't really matter what he's saying. So even if you invest another part of your salary and you get 15% out of it, it doesn't really mean anything.
Not a trade-off of saying I'm not going to invest it and said I'm going to pay off the mortgage. Then on top
but he's
of
just saying in general, on the concept of why would you ever pay off a 2% mortgage when you can invest it at 10? That's a standard question. And he's right. He's a new listener. It's a good conversation. Thank you for calling in with that, by the way, because people think we're crazy for suggesting you do pay it off. But the rationalization or the justification, the reasoning, none of that.
No, it's not crazy or not crazy. It's depends on the moment. If interest rates were back at 15-20%, your advice would be massively good, but not now.
The reasoning for the advice is that it's right, because the data shows that the borrower is slave to the lender. The data shows your relationships are different, your career path changes, and you make more money because you're not. If you're running your own business and you have zero debt, you make different decisions running the business, and you take fewer crazy risks and more proper risks in your business because you can, and it doesn't scare you anymore. You're not playing desperate. You're not playing small ball. And I've watched small business people prosper beyond belief because their brain is freed up. They don't have this monkey riding their back.
Not living in your head rent free. The other piece is,
haven't checked proper papers on that, so I'm not going to contradict what he's saying. I really don't have the data. He might be right on this one.
I want to ask different questions. Do I want to be 63 with a mortgage? You know,
Subjective. That's not the point.
Like, who dreams when they become homeowners? Man, I hope I get to hang on to this thing forever. I mean, there's just a life you get to live when you don't have a payment. I mean, mortgage means death pledge in French. Did you know that?
Yes.
Death pledge. That's what you're signing up for. And so I'm going to live more freely. I want to live in my 60s with a free up a payment, invest it, and you're going to be okay either way. But in the meantime,
good for him. But again, that's not the point.
Goodness, I want to get that mortgage off my back.
Yeah. So it is, Jay, also doing the show all these years, I have noticed that people that have pretty serious wealth never ask this question. And that's not to make fun of you, but they just don't. It never occurs to them. They're on Georgia's side. They're like, I don't want to be in a death pledge. I want to be out of debt. And they don't even necessarily know why sometimes. They just have this penchant to get away from it. But your most powerful wealth building tool is your income. And when you don't owe anybody any money, you can use that income. That $140,000 is a lot more powerful than the $416.
And any spread you could make. And
I'm sorry, but I couldn't disagree more. And I'm going to tell you when I'm going to give you an example. Say now the bank, instead of charging you 2% interest rate, it gives you the money for free, or even is paying you to have that debt, to have that money. It makes no sense, that advice. Not all debt is bad debt. It depends on the interest rate. Imagine you could borrow 100k from the bank and then make from those 100k, you could invest them at 10%. It makes no sense, that advice. Not all debt is a bad debt. It only is a bad debt if you're paying a high interest rate on it.
And Dave, I did this when I was in my early 30s. We paid off our house, and my financial advisor and creator friends were like, "Dude, you're an idiot! I can't believe you paid off your mortgage at 3 point what?" And I'm like, "Guys, life is more than a spread. I got goals. My wife is able to stay home now because we don't have a mortgage payment. And so you got to think bigger than just a mathematical spread on a piece of paper."
Well, I've been doing this so long that I've seen people's lives change in all areas of their life, and that actually has a mathematical effect as well. For instance, you don't have to work for a toxic boss. You can go work for somebody else that pays you more, and you have a better quality of life. Your stress level goes down. Your doctor bills go down. All these things run together.
More options, more margin, more freedom, more joy.
Again, I really appreciate Dave Ramsey. I think he's done an incredible job teaching people how to manage their finances. But I believe in this particular video, I think he was wrong. And I've shown you why. Any questions you could have, just drop them below the comment section. And I'm going to try and answer as soon as possible. And any financial advice you need, just hit me. See you soon.